I'm Gautam Roy. The day saw the much-awaited start of the monsoon session of Parliament. Things looked very different. Apart from changed timings and MPs marking their attendance on a mobile app because of the COVID era, Prime Minister Narendra Modi also had a clear-cut call to issue for all MPs today, just before the proceedings began. And it related to the situation on the border as well as our brave soldiers. We'll get you all the details tonight, also along with our guests talking about it too. But first, our headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi praises the valor of soldiers guarding our borders at icy heights just before the start of the monsoon session of Parliament. Expresses hope that all members will stand united with the soldiers facing challenging circumstances. Says it's the House's special responsibility. The monsoon session begins with the observation of all social distancing norms and related guidelines. Homage paid to former President Pranab Mukherjee and other departed leaders on day one. Sitting of each house held spread over the premises of both the houses for the first time ever. And day one of the monsoon session sees the passage of two legislations. National Commission for Homeopathy Bill and National Commission for Indian System of Medicine Bill get the Lok Sabha's nod. Rajya Sabha has already approved the two bills. 3 farming and essential commodities related bills also tabled to replace 3 ordinances. Harvansh Narayan Singh re-elected as Rajya Sabha Deputy Chairperson by voice vote. Prime Minister Modi congratulates the leader and showers praise on him. Leaders of other political parties also congratulate the Rajya Sabha Deputy Chairperson. The nation keeps battling hard against the COVID-19 pandemic. The PM says no letting guard down without cure. Union Health Minister Dr. Harsh Vardhan makes a statement in the Lok Sabha on the first day of the monsoon session, says India stands united in the war against the virus. Government measures prevented 14 to 29 lakh people getting infected. The BJP leaders and workers all over the country start Seva Saptah to celebrate Prime Minister Modi's birthday. Various social and political programs under Seva Saptah to be undertaken from the 14th till the 20th of this month, encouraging plasma donation, distribution of prosthetics and other equipment to 70 disabled persons in each block to be also part of the celebrations. Prime Minister Modi to inaugurate and lay the foundation stone of 7 urban infrastructure projects worth 541 crore rupees in Bihar via video conference on Tuesday. 4 projects are related to water supply, 2 to sewage treatment and 1 to riverfront development. Hindi Divas is being observed all over the nation. On this day in 1949, Hindi was adopted as one of the country's official languages. Prime Minister Modi greets the people on the occasion of Hindi Divas, praises those working for the growth of the language. Home Minister Amit Shah stresses on the need to ensure growth of Hindi. And Yoshihide Suga elected as a new head of Japan's ruling party, virtually guaranteeing his parliamentary election as the country's next Prime Minister. The election to pick a successor to Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was necessitated after Abe announced last month that he would resign due to health reasons. Well, the first day of the short monsoon session of Parliament saw the passage of 2 bills, introduced an introduction of 3 more legislations and withdrawal of 1 covering a wide range of issues from medical education in the country to cooperative banks and even farmers. There was healthy debate between the opposition and the Treasury on the bills, and the government put its points across firmly, countering the opposition's charges. But the tone was set earlier in the day before proceedings began by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who gave a call to all MPs to stand united with the nation's soldiers guarding our borders under challenging and tense circumstances in COVID times.
Monday saw curtains up for the monsoon session of Parliament during COVID times amidst drastically changed circumstances. It saw the unprecedented sitting of each House of Parliament being held in both the houses, considering social distancing norms and related guidelines. Before proceedings got underway, Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the media, saying the session is being held under specific circumstances. He congratulated all members of parliament on choosing the path of duty during the pandemic. He said that the session will see key legislations being enacted and issues being discussed. The PM made a special mention of the Jawans posted at the border, appreciating their valor. Prime Minister expressed confidence that Parliament will give an unambiguous and united message that all its members are standing firmly with the country's soldiers, as is their responsibility. Proceedings on the first day of the monsoon session began at 9 a.m. Right at the start, Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla informed all members of the demise of former President Pranab Mukherjee, music maestro Pandit Jasraj, Vasant Kumar and 13 former MPs. The House observed a few moments silence to pay homage to the departed, and then proceedings were adjourned for 1 hour. When the House resumed, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman sought Parliament's nod for additional spending of rupees 2.35 lakh crore, which includes a cash outgo of rupees 1.66 lakh crore, primarily to meet expenses for combating the COVID-19 pandemic. She also tabled a proposal to withdraw the Banking Regulation Amendment Bill 2020, introduced in the House in March this year, which was approved by the House. Thereafter, the Banking Regulation Amendment Bill 2020 related to cooperative banks was tabled. It brings cooperative banks under the supervision of the RBI in order to protect the interests of depositors and will replace the ordinance promulgated in June for the same purpose. The Finance Minister rejected the opposition's charges related to the bill, saying that state cooperative laws are not being touched and that the proposed law seeks to regulate cooperative banks same as other commercial banks.
It is only restricted to those activities which come under the name of banker, banking that we are trying to regulate under the entry 45 of the Union list. So the competence is very well established. And we are very clearly saying we are not looking at the states, we are state cooperative laws. That will remain wherever it is, we are not touching them.
Thereafter, the government also tabled 3 bills in place of 3 other ordinances. Minister of State for Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution, Rao Sahib Danve, introduced the Essential Commodities Amendment Bill, while Agriculture Minister Narendra Singh Tomar introduced the Farmers' Produce Trade and Commerce Promotion and Facilitation Bill and the Farmers' Empowerment and Protection Agreement on Price Assurance and Farm Services Bill. The Agriculture Minister rejected the opposition's charges on the bills, saying they will ensure better remuneration for farmers and the state's right to fix MSP will remain unchanged.
कोई भी व्यक्ति अब इस बिल के बाद किसान के खेत तक पहुंचेगा और किसान के खेत के मामले में किसी भी प्रकार का करार इस बिल में निषेध है। खेत का मालिकाना हक किसान का होगा। खेत के बारे में किसी प्रकार का करार नहीं हो सकता है। ये करार होगा सिर्फ फसल का।
The first day of the monsoon session also saw the Lok Sabha giving its nod to two bills, National Commission for Homeopathy Bill and the National Commission for Indian System of Medicine Bill. Both bills together propose a medical education system that improves access to quality and affordable medical education by ensuring availability of adequate and high-quality homeopathy and Indian system of medicine professionals across the country. Both bills have already received the stamp of approval from Rajya Sabha. The 18-day session will see 47 proposals being tabled apart from 11 bills set to replace ordinances. The session may be short, but it packs a big punch in terms of the government's legislative agenda. With Shailendra Mishra in New Delhi, Newsnight Desk, TD India.
And let's also tell you what happened in the Rajya Sabha. Well, over there, senior Janata Dal United leader Harivansh Narayan Singh was re-elected as Rajya Sabha Deputy Chairperson with voice vote. All MPs extended greetings to Harivansh Narayan. Also, the chairperson administered the oath to 50 newly elected members, including Jharkhand Mukti Morcha Chief Shibu Soren and BJP's Syed Zafar Islam. Although the customary handshake with the chairperson was given a miss, all due to COVID-19.
Rajya Sabha re-elected Janata Dal United parliamentarian Harivansh Narayan Singh as Deputy Chairman of the Upper House by voice vote. Harivansh's name was proposed by BJP President and Party MP Jagat Prakash Nadda. Leader of the House Thawar Chand Gehlot seconded it. The opposition had fielded Manoj Jha, an RJD member. Soon after the election, MPs from various political parties congratulated Harivansh. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also congratulated him for being re-elected.
मैं श्रीमान हरिवंश जी को दूसरी बार इस सदन का उपसभापति चुने जाने पर पूरे सदन और सभी देशवासियों की तरफ से बहुत-बहुत बधाई देता हूं। सामाजिक कार्यों और पत्रकारिता की दुनिया में हरिवंश जी ने जिस तरह अपनी ईमानदार पहचान बनाई, उस वजह से मेरे मन में हमेशा उनके लिए बहुत सम्मान रहा है।
All the members congratulated Harivansh and praised his work.
जैसा कि सर्वविदित है, हमारे उपसभापति जी प्रखर बुद्धिजीवी हैं, कलम के धनी हैं और कर्मठ राजनीतिक कार्यकर्ता हैं। आपने विभिन्न दायित्वों का निर्वहन समय-समय पर किया है और सामाजिक, राजनीतिक और आर्थिक जीवन का कोई भी पहलू आपसे अछूता नहीं रहा है।
वो बहुत ही बड़े विद्वान हैं, लेखक हैं और इस फील्ड से जो आते हैं उनके लिए सभी बराबर होते हैं। मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि आने वाले समय में भी तीनों तरफ ध्यान देंगे।
Rajya Sabha proceedings were on Monday adjourned for an hour as a mark of respect for the memory of Pranab Mukherjee and the 3 other sitting members. Traditionally, the proceedings of the House are adjourned for the day when a sitting member or former president dies. However, in view of the short 18-day session being held under the shadow of the pandemic, the proceedings were adjourned for 1 hour. Jharkhand Mukti Morcha Chief Shibu Soren, DMK leader Tiruchi Shiva and BJP's Syed Zafar Islam were among the 15 newly elected members who took oath. As the monsoon session of Parliament that is being held with several restrictions in view of the COVID-19 pandemic, the MPs walked to the designated spot, took the oath, but did not go to the customary handshake with Chairman M. Venkaiah Naidu. Naidu welcomed them with folded hands as members came forward for the oath-taking, signed the register and walked back to their designated seats without approaching other leaders for greetings. With Rishi Kumar and Rajesh Raj, Newsnight Desk, DD News.
And the monsoon session of Parliament that began today has been unique and without precedent from day one. For the first time, while Lok Sabha members were seated not only in the upper house's chamber but also in the visitors' gallery, all social distancing and COVID-related safety norms were followed to ensure proceedings are held in the safest manner possible.
5 images of parliamentary proceedings during COVID times. The global pandemic has forced new protocols in the functioning of the temple of the world's largest democracy. This monsoon session has become historic in many ways. Parliament complex was sanitized before the Lok Sabha proceedings began at 9 in the morning. Thermal guns were used to check body temperature of every person entering the house. They were allowed inside only if they had no symptoms along with normal body temperature.
जिस तरह से श्री ओम बिरला जी ने जो व्यवस्था की है, कल्पना से भी परे है कि लोगों को कोरोना संक्रमण के काल में किस तरह से सुरक्षित रखते हुए इस लोकसभा को चलाया जा सके.
Efforts are being made to minimize the use of paper as well. Hence, MPs marked their attendance digitally, another application for the ever-present and indispensable smartphone. MPs certainly weren't complaining with the new facility.
अब अटेंडेंस भी पेपरलेस होगी और उसके ऐप के द्वारा हम अपनी हाजिरी भरेंगे. अभी मैंने यहाँ आके ऐप डाउन करके हाजिरी भरी और मैंने फ़ोटो आने के बाद उसमें क्लिक करा तो मेरी प्रेजेंस हो गई.
आँख में ब्लिंक कर देने से भी वो ऑटोमेटिक फ़ोटो लेगा. सबमिट कर देने के बाद आपका वो तो आपका लोकेशन एक्यूरेसी नोटेड है, तो आप कहाँ से किया इसको वो लोग को पता चल. यस, बहुत बढ़िया, बहुत बढ़िया.
Well, all this happened before entering the house. The view from inside was also unique. Most visible being the safe distance seating arrangements of members of parliament. Lok Sabha members were seated in the chambers of both houses of parliament. MPs were also designated seats in the visitors' galleries. Every MP wore a mask. The Prime Minister and his Council of Ministers were present with masks on their faces. The members were separated by suitable distance and shields. Preparations for this unique session began much earlier. MPs, their staff and journalists covering Parliament all had to undergo COVID testing so that no infected person entered the House. Only a negative report permitted entry. All MPs were given a kit with sanitizer, mask, shield and other essentials. Touchless sanitizer dispensers have also been installed at suitable places around the House. All COVID-related protocols are being strictly followed. A testing facility will be available on Parliament premises throughout the session. Emergency medical teams and ambulance facilities are also on standby. So every arrangement has been put in place for immediate health care if needed.
हमारी ओर से भी नागरिकों के बीच ये संदेश जाना चाहिए कि भारत की जनता की प्रगति, उत्कर्ष और उन्हें हर प्रकार से सुरक्षित रखने के लिए पूरा सदन एक मत है.
On day one, the Lok Sabha functioned from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. On other days, it will function from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. The Rajya Sabha session took place in the evening on day one, but will function from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on the other days of the session. There is no question hour, but half an hour has been set aside for 0 hour in the Lok Sabha. Questions can also be laid on the table of the House. The manner in which Parliament is functioning, even during COVID pandemic, is sending a message to the world that Indian democracy is very mature and ready to face challenges of any kind. New Zealand, China, France, Britain, Indonesia, Japan and the Netherlands have also had Parliament sessions during the COVID pandemic. With inputs from Parliament team, Newsnight Desk, DD India.
And that brings up our In Focus tonight, which is all about the monsoon session of Parliament. Yes, monsoon session begins, PM calls for unity, because that is a big takeaway from day one of the monsoon session of Parliament. And to talk about it, we have Lieutenant General Syed Ata Hasnain with us, former GOC 15 Corps, and Sushant Sareen as well, well-known strategic expert and senior fellow at the Observer Research Foundation. Welcome to you both. First, to you, Lieutenant General Hasnain, what do you make of the call that the Prime Minister has given out today at the start of the monsoon session of Parliament? It's not just meant for parliamentarians, the opposition, but perhaps for the entire nation, and especially those soldiers who are guiding those heights at those borders.
Yes, thank you. No doubt, the opening session of Parliament, the first time after the pandemic has broken out in India, is also the first time that we are seeing it after the problem which is going on in Ladakh at the moment, with a huge induction of troops there, 35 to 40,000 troops of the Indian Army there, lots and lots of ITBP, other forces. Obviously, a sense of purpose is being conveyed to Parliament. This is the first time that Parliament has got together at this time. And obviously, the Prime Minister's message is conveying the whole sense of the purpose behind what has happened, and also conveying the full support Parliament, the full support of the complete political community to the soldiers who are fighting up in Ladakh. Not only that, it is conveying the message to the people of India that everything is in order. We are there in Ladakh. We are contesting. The army is in position. It has all the means available to it. And last of all, I think a very strong message is going out that the largest democracy in the world is also backing its soldiers, and this is a message which is going out to the world. It is going out to China in particular, that they should see that the soldiers, the army deployed on ground in Ladakh has got the backing of the entire political community, the entire nation behind it. These are very important symbolics which are necessary whenever nations are in standoff situations and situations on the border which can be triggered off into something awkward. We're not talking about war. We are a peace-loving nation. We don't want war.
But let's hope that it doesn't come to that
intent.
Yes, let's hope it doesn't come to that. So, Shant Sareen, in terms of the message that the PM gave out, also, inherent in it was the kind of responsibility. He said every member of the House has a special responsibility at times like these to stand with our soldiers. In terms of this particular part of the message, do you feel that he was straight away referring to the kind of stand that the opposition seems to be taking as far as the standoff on the border, if it can be still called a standoff, perhaps it's more than that, is concerned?
Look, I think what the Prime Minister said is exactly what he should have said, or the call that he made was exactly as it should have been. I don't think there's anything unexceptionable about that. The issue is that whatever politics has had to happen has already happened. You've heard carping sounds or, some amount of trolling also from the opposition. But that was before the Parliament started. I think now that Parliament has commenced, Parliament would be a great forum if the entire political spectrum came together and stood by, the challenge which the Chinese are posing to India along the borders. Now, ideally, in my view, I believe that the government should certainly make a statement. They should probably take some of the opposition, the more sober opposition leaders, in confidence and have a conversation with them and then have an open session. Because I don't think that it behoves a democracy like India to say that, no, we will not discuss this issue. I think it is important that the Parliament discusses this issue and comes to some kind of a consensus in front of the world opinion and in front of, the eyes of the world, and then stands together as one. Politics will happen. I think some amount of politics is inevitable given the kind of political system we have. So that doesn't worry me. What actually, I find distasteful is the kind of very silly digs. I have absolutely no problems, and I would imagine even the government would have no problems if the opposition was to ask serious questions, if the opposition was to try and engage the government on a serious level.
Okay.
But if you have, the opposition using Twitter to troll the Prime Minister, if you have people, shooting their mouth off unnecessarily, trying to take digs at the government, I don't think that behoves the opposition, especially the principal opposition party. Now, ideally, I believe that there is no harm if the government, the top ministers of the government, the foreign minister as well as the defense minister, explain whatever they can in the public domain to the other members of parliament. Even if there is some kind of a debate which happens, I don't have a problem with it. Right. We are, after all, a democracy. We are not China.
Okay, we'll come to your point, Sushant, on whether there should be a debate on the situation on the border or not. But the point that you made about the kind of attacks and the barbs that are being cast, trolling you referred to on Twitter. Now, General Hasnain, isn't that a very thin line to tread, that in order to pull down or denigrate a person, a leader of a nation, it's very, very easy to take pot shots at the nation itself, and the opposition there, again, as the PM said, has a special responsibility. And do you think that the opposition has been able to abide by it so far?
You're absolutely right. A very thin line to tread upon. There's no doubt about it. But when it comes to issues of national security, when it goes beyond a threshold, And I think the Ladakh situation has gone beyond the threshold. You see, it's not a normal situation which emanates on the line of control or something like that, where you have firing across and a few casualties maybe. Here it is a more than a strategic situation which is threatening the nation in a very, very crucial part of the nation. And therefore, at such a time, I think having crossed the threshold, I do expect the opposition as a part of democracy to raise issues. They must raise issues. They must raise serious issues if they are there. But these must be discussed and discussed in the spirit of conciliation, so that those issues are also thrown out to the rest of the country. The nation gets to know about it. There's greater awareness about it. There's a degree of pressure on the government also to carry out and execute those actions. But the moment this becomes personalized and the moment this becomes politicized completely, then I think the whole purpose of it is lost. I entirely agree with what Sushant just said, that it's quite disgusting to see this whole thing playing out on social media and places like that, because there's no doubt about it, the government has been under tremendous pressure. And this kind of a pressure is not a simple, awkward, normal situation. This is a pressure which I think rarely has been felt for a period of 4 to 5 months, where the border is under intense this kind of a situation. Right. So I do think that a call by the Prime Minister, perhaps as the Sushant suggests, a meeting with a few very responsible members of the opposition, etc., may set a conciliatory note for this session.
Well, we have seen that happen in the past, not in the context of China, but in the context of another neighbor. We've had briefings done behind closed doors for a select few. Sushant, Sareen, you're very right about that. But in this particular case, this situation is still brewing and developing one way or the other, in a good way, I hope, going forward in terms of how talks have been going between leadership of both the sides. Both Defence Minister and External Affairs Minister have met their counterparts under different circumstances in recent days. Let's hope that something positive emerges, because right now nothing of that has been reflected in actual positions along the border. But in such a scenario, do you feel that an open debate with questions being asked and answered, is that advisable?
No, I think I specified earlier that you could take senior and more responsible opposition leaders in confidence behind the scenes, and then have an open session as well, in which both sides can make can make a couple of statements. Again, they will have to be guarded. They will have to be careful. They can't be laying out all the cards and whatever the strategies are. And surely the opposition, which has for the longest been in government since independence, understands the problems which the government might be facing, why the government cannot have complete transparency at this stage on what's happening on the border. I'm sure they understand it, which is why when they start acting irresponsibly and trolling, one has to askance at them as to why they are doing something like that. So what I'm trying to say is that you have take a few of these guys in confidence, then have an open session. You lay out whatever you can share in the public domain. Yes, of course, behind closed doors, you might be able to tell them a little more. Obviously, you're not going to discuss classified information even behind closed doors, because it has a bad habit of leaking one way or another. Somebody will talk to a journalist, somebody will talk to somebody else, and obviously that cannot be allowed at this point in time. But there is a lot more you can share with them, and then let the opposition leaders also say what they have to say. There could be a couple of points of criticism of the government, the standard kind, that you should have done something earlier, you should have done something later. Okay. I'm sure the government is large-hearted enough to take that on the chin. But at the end of that session, if the entire parliament speaks in one voice, I think that will send a very salutary message. And I think that is the direction in which the government should try to move. Of course, if the opposition is not going to be responsive and they're going to behave as irresponsibly as they have before the parliament started, then of course the government will have to rethink how it intends to approach this issue. But otherwise, a little bit of criticism is part of the spirit of democracy. And at the end of the day, if all of, there's a bipartisan consensus on how we intend to confront this issue, there's a display of national unity, I think that will be an excellent message to send out.
Okay, but General Hussain, here's the flip side of that argument is that, there have been measures that have been taken, not just militarily, but also non-militarily, especially on the trade front, especially on the front of Chinese presence in our lives here in India. But those steps perhaps officially may not be stated as having been taken in the context of a debate in Parliament. So the government really cannot state its case fully officially out as well. Do you think that is also something that is worth considering when one comes to demanding that all answers be laid out in terms of what have you been doing about the situation on the border?
See, there's no doubt about it that a situation which has emanated on the Ladakh border, or rather on the northern borders, is not an ordinary situation which is sort of, in terms of a conventional conflict about to happen or something like that. There is a hybridity attached to it. It is being looked at in the information domain. It is being looked at in the economic domain, as you are aware, in the psychological domain. All kinds of things are there. So to expect that there will be total transparency by the government, I think a lot of people are expecting that the Kargil kind of model where there was total transparency of everyday evening briefings about what is going to happen in Kargil, etc. Though that was a completely different situation. This is a much more complex situation and needs to be handled that way. I think the opposition has to be made to realize it. And we go back to that point that it has to be a behind the door, the scenes, a closed door kind of a consultation and understanding by which you explain to the opposition, these are the constraints, these are the issues which can be put out into the public domain. And this cannot be put out, including in the military domain, including very much on the economic domain and the non-military aspects which are being played out at the moment, because those are as important, they are as significant to the situation, because this is not just a simple awkward situation on the borders.
Right. Sushant, what is your take on this?
I largely agree with General Hussain. Just on the point of what happened during Kargil, in fact, those briefings and that transparency actually started once the battle started in right earnest. Before that, there was considerable amount of silence from the government part. All information was not being leaked. And even at that point of time, the opposition, which is the same opposition as today, played a rather dubious role. You remember that the election was to come, and suddenly they tried, they had this inflated balloon with a bus overturned as the balloon, just to, take digs at the then Prime Minister, Mr. Vajpayee. Again, some of this is par for the course, because, in democracy, some amount of this kind of an activity will continue to happen. But I think on the more substantive issues, I'll go along with what General Hussain is saying. But I also believe that, yes, you can have a public debate. Once you've explained to the senior members and the more responsible members on what are the compulsions and what are the imperatives before the government, I'm sure they will take that into account whenever they make their interventions, number one. Number two, if you come out with a joint statement or a joint resolution, I think that sends a very positive message.
Okay.
The other thing is that, yeah, there could be a couple of carping sounds, but I'm sure you can take it on the chin and it doesn't hurt anybody. So I think that might be a good way to approach this issue. Of course, when you mention that, some of the non-kinetic steps that the government has taken in the economic realm and others, but the government's official position can be repeated in Parliament, that there was a certain security dimension. You don't have to link it with the standoff on the border. Nobody is stupid enough to not, understand that. Everybody understands what has happened, what has transpired, and what is likely to happen. The Prime Minister could use his slogan of Atmanirbhar Bharat to say that, many of the areas in which we are dependent on other countries, he doesn't have to necessarily name China, but that we are going to move in a different direction. He could talk about the revelations which have come out today about the spying and how data mining is being done by some Chinese companies of Indian leaders, and say that, look, this was the reason why we wanted to ban certain apps, because there is a clear and present security threat when you're using that kind of thing. In the info technology regime, how certain changes are likely or are being considered. I think, again, that sends a very good message.
Okay.
How on critical infrastructure, we'll have to be extremely careful from where we purchase our equipment, from where we, the countries or the companies we give contracts to. Now, certain policies could also be laid out before the parliament at this point in time, and heavens will not fall. Let there be a debate on some of those. I'm sure the government will be able to handle that debate. And at the end of it, if you get a national consensus, which you will get, I think that would be a fabulous thing to happen.
Well, let's see how things work out. The business advisory meeting is supposed to, it's scheduled for tomorrow itself. Let's see how things move forward on that account there as well. For the moment, thank you so much for joining us, General Hussain, as well as Sushant Sareen.
Thank you.
Okay, now the centre has supported its handling of the COVID-19 pandemic in Parliament. Union Health Minister Dr. Harsh Vardhan made a statement in the Lok Sabha on the pandemic and said that timely decisions, including imposing a nationwide lockdown, helped in preventing approximately 37 to 38,000 deaths due to the coronavirus and 14 to 29 lakh people from getting infected.
The nation continues to fight the COVID pandemic with all its might. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also reminded India of the challenges and said that till the time a medicine for the virus is not made available, India cannot afford to lower the guard.
जिन सतर्कताओं के विषय में सूचित किया गया है, उन सतर्कताओं का पालन हम सबको करना ही करना है और ये भी साफ है, जब तक दवाई नहीं तब तक कोई ढिलाई नहीं.
Union Minister for Health and Family Welfare Dr. Harsh Vardhan made a suo motu statement in the Parliament regarding COVID-19 pandemic and listed the steps taken by the government to contain it. He said that Government of India undertook the COVID-19 challenge with the highest level of political commitment. He added that India has collectively stood up to manage COVID-19 and successfully blunted the aggressive progression of COVID, preventing approximately 14 to 29 lakh cases and 37 to 78,000 mortalities.
A total of 45,62,414 confirmed cases and 76,271 deaths with a case fatality rate of 1.67% have been reported in India. As many as 35,42,663, that is 77.65% cases have recovered.
Dr. Harsh Vardhan added that with the endeavour to manage COVID-19 through a whole of government and whole of society approach, India has been able to limit its cases and deaths per million to 3,328 cases per million and 55 deaths per million of population. This is one of the lowest in the world as compared to similarly affected countries. He added that the maximum cases and deaths have been primarily reported from Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Uttar Pradesh, Delhi, West Bengal, Bihar, Telangana, Odisha, Assam, Kerala and Gujarat.
The Government of India undertook the COVID-19 challenge with the highest level of political commitment. The nationwide lockdown, a bold decision undertaken by the government, duly involving community, initiated as self-imposed Janta curfew as per the call given by the Honorable Prime Minister, is testimony to the fact that India has collectively stood up to manage COVID-19 and successfully blunted the aggressive progression of COVID.
Dr. Harsh Vardhan added that whereas there was no indigenous manufacturing of PPE with the requisite standards in the beginning, India is now self-sufficient and in a position to even export the same. He said that the group of ministers have met 20 times since its inception on 3rd February 2020. Meanwhile, the data shows that India is performing exceedingly well in the fight against COVID-19. On a steep rising curve, India's recovery rate has touched 78%. There are 28 lakh more recoveries than active cases. 77,512 patients have been discharged in the past 24 hours. The total recovered cases are 37,80,107. The gap between recovered cases and active cases is consistently increasing and has now touched 27,93,509. More than 60% of the active cases are concentrated in 5 states. These are Maharashtra, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. These states are also reporting 60% of the total recovered cases. Meanwhile, metro rail services in Kolkata resumed on Monday after a gap of more than 5 months. The services were suspended on March 23rd. All safety protocols, including social distancing, are being followed. A train is now halting at the station for 30 seconds instead of previous duration of 20 seconds to avoid rush during boarding and deboarding. The services will remain suspended on Sundays for the sanitization of rakes and stations. The Metro Railway has decided to allow a maximum of 400 passengers on a train to avoid overcrowding. Passengers will have to wear masks covering their mouth and nose and sanitize their hands before boarding a train. They will have to undergo thermal screening while entering a station. With inputs from Parliament team, Newsnight Desk, DD India.
Now, the BJP has launched a week-long campaign, namely Seva Saptah, to mark the birthday of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, which falls on the 17th of September. Party National President JP Nadda launched the Seva Saptah Abhiyan from Gautam Buddha Nagar in Uttar Pradesh. Here's a report.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi is turning 70 on September 17th. To mark the occasion, BJP has decided to celebrate this week as Seva Saptah, or the Service Week, as the date holds special significance for the leaders and party workers. The party will reach out to public through various services. BJP National President JP Nadda started Seva Saptah from Chaprauli village in Noida on Monday. He described the life of Prime Minister as an example of selfless service to the society. He said that the BJP workers will hold cleanliness drive and plantation campaigns in all districts of the country and donate blood and plasma during the week.
14 तारीख से लेकर के 20 तारीख तक सेवा सप्ताह, क्योंकि उनके जीवन में और उनकी जीवनी में अगर हम देखें तो सेवा प्रमुख लक्ष्य रहा है। भारत की सेवा, जनता की सेवा, दीनदयाल की सेवा, दलित की सेवा, पिछड़े की सेवा, शोषित की सेवा, जो समाज के अंतिम पायदान पर खड़ा है उसकी सेवा करना, यह उनका जीवन का ध्येय रहा, लक्ष्य रहा। इसको हमको समझना चाहिए।
In Varanasi, the Seva Saptah started with a blood donation camp. Not only BJP workers but locals also participated in the camp wholeheartedly. Health Department is also playing an important role in this regard.
आज से सेवा सप्ताह की शुरुआत की जो भारतीय जनता पार्टी ने केंद्रीय टीम ने जो घोषणा की है वो सेवा सप्ताह की आज काशी में शुरुआत हो रही है। मोदी जी के सिद्धांत, मोदी जी के विचार और मोदी जी के कार्य के अनुरूप लोगों की जान बचाना, किसी का जीवन दीप प्रज्वलित रखना, ये काम करने आज सभी कार्यकर्ता जा रहे हैं। काशी से शुरुआत है, पूरे देश के कार्यकर्ता आज जा रहे हैं।
हमारे देश के यशस्वी माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी की जो 70वीं वर्षगांठ है, इसके उपलक्ष्य में सेवा सप्ताह चल रहा है, जो कि 14 तारीख से 20 तारीख तक चलाया जाएगा। और इस सेवा सप्ताह में 14 तारीख को हम लोग वाराणसी जनपद में 4 जगह ब्लड डोनेशन कैंप कर रहे हैं।
As Prime Minister turns 70, different programs are being organized at 70 places across the country this week. Party workers are extensively engaged in distribution of masks, sanitizers and medicines to the needy. The party supporters are being encouraged to hold blood donation camps as well. A target has also been set up to provide necessary equipment to at least 70 Divyangs in each district of the country. Similarly, 70 virtual rallies will be organized and at least 70 saplings will be planted in each district of the nation. With inputs from Sudhir Yadav and Shailendra Mishra in Delhi and Harikesh Bahadur from Varanasi, Newsnight Desk, DD India.
The Hindi language plays a significant role in weaving together the threads of Indian culture and civilization. Hindi Divas has been celebrated today, commemorating the event when it was adopted as one of the official languages of India on the 14th of September. Prime Minister Modi extended greetings on Hindi Divas and so did other leaders.
Hindi Divas was celebrated on Monday to celebrate the language and to commemorate the event when it was adopted as one of the official languages of India on 14th September. To showcase the importance of the day and the language, Hindi Divas is celebrated on 14th September each year. Various programs are held across the country to mark the occasion. Vice President and Rajya Sabha Chairman Venkaiah Naidu greeted the people on the occasion of Hindi Divas.
सभी भारतीय भाषाएं हमारे लिए आदरणीय है। हमारा प्रयास होना चाहिए हम हिंदी के साथ ही साथ अधिक से अधिक भारतीय भाषाओं को सीखें, उनका प्रयोग करें।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi greeted the nation on Hindi Divas as well. Prime Minister Modi, in a tweet, said that all the very best on the occasion of Hindi Divas. Congratulations to all those people who contributed in the development of Hindi. Union Home Minister Amit Shah said that everyone should take a pledge to work for promotion and progress of Hindi language.
हिंदी हमारे देश के स्वतंत्रता संग्राम के समय से राष्ट्रीय एकता और अस्मिता का प्रभावी व शक्तिशाली माध्यम रही है। हिंदी के सबसे बड़ी शक्ति इसकी वैज्ञानिकता, मौलिकता, सरलता, सुबोधता और स्वीकार्यता भी है। हिंदी भाषा की विशेषता है कि इसमें जो बोला जाता है वो ही लिखा जाता है।
Extending his greetings to the people on Hindi Divas, Union Information and Broadcasting Minister Prakash Javadekar said that every language of the country is beautiful and great. Greetings to all on Hindi Divas. Sumit Jared, Secretary, Department of Official Languages in the Home Ministry, said that Hindi language is being promoted around the world through motivation, encouragement and goodwill.
इसके और जो स्तंभ हैं वो है प्रेम अर्थात लव एंड अफेक्शन, पुरस्कार अर्थात रिवॉर्ड्स। हम लोग हर वर्ष राजभाषा कीर्ति पुरस्कार और राजभाषा गौरव पुरस्कार की घोषणा करते हैं। इस वर्ष भी हमने की है। उसके पश्चात प्रशिक्षण अर्थात ट्रेनिंग। हमारे पास 2 इंस्टीट्यूट्स हैं, केंद्रीय हिंदी प्रशिक्षण संस्थान और केंद्रीय अनुवाद ब्यूरो।
In Madhya Pradesh, Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan inaugurated the newly constructed building at Atal Bihari Vajpayee Hindi University in Bhopal. The Chief Minister said that Atal Bihari Vajpayee's speech at UN General Assembly in Hindi not only enhanced the reputation of Hindi at international platform, but it also increased respect for Indians at global level. To mark the occasion, Prasar Bharati Parivar celebrated Hindi Divas while following social distancing and all COVID-19 precautionary measures. The function was attended by Prasar Bharati CEO Shashi Shekhar Vempati, Rajiv Singh, Member Finance of Prasar Bharati Board, Doordarshan Director General Mayank Agarwal and other officials. Inaugurating the program, Prasar Bharati CEO Shashi Shekhar Vempati said that Akashvani and Doordarshan have played remarkable roles in promotion of Hindi literature.
हिंदी साहित्य को लेकर जितना काम आकाशवाणी और दूरदर्शन ने किया और अभी तो रामायण ने विश्व रिकॉर्ड स्थापित कर दिया, तो ये तो हिंदी के लिए इससे बड़ा और क्या हो सकता है। जो हम ई ऑफिस के तहत नए जो टूल्स बनाए हैं, इससे मुझे लगता है कि काफ़ी लोगों में फाइलों में हिंदी का उपयोग काफ़ी सरल हो जाएगा।
Member Finance of Prasar Bharati Board Rajiv Singh said that Hindi language will benefit more with the availability of technological innovation in Hindi as well. Doordarshan Director General Mayank Agarwal said that we are proud of the Hindi language. Hindi is spoken in many countries and it is the 3rd most spoken language of the world. With inputs from Girish Nishana, Newsnight Desk, DD India.
In another major step towards payment of MSME dues by different sectors, Union Ministry of MSME has now impressed upon the private sector enterprises of the country to take measures for release of payment of MSME dues on priority. During the announcement of Atmanirbhar Bharat package, it was stressed that the MSME receivables and dues should be paid within 45 days. Accordingly, the Ministry of MSME took up the matter aggressively with central ministries, their departments and central public sector enterprises. Around 10,000 crore rupees have been reported to have been paid by the ministries and CPSEs. Taking the efforts now further on, The ministry has directly taken up the issue with top 500 corporate groups of the country as well. The ministry has written e-letters to the owners, CMDs or top executives of these 500 corporates. While conveying its support and solidarity in these difficult times, the ministry has strongly taken up the issue of pending payments to MSMEs. The government has banned the export of all varieties of onions with immediate effect. The Director General of Foreign Trade issued a notification which prohibits the export of all varieties of onions with immediate effect. The DGFT, which is an arm of the Commerce Ministry, deals with exports and imports related issues. Education Minister Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank has lauded the National Testing Agency or the NTA for successfully conducting the NEET 2020 examination on Sunday. The minister also said that the centre is very much concerned about the safety and security of students.
हम शुरू से हमारी गवर्नमेंट और हमारे देश के प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने हमेशा ये इस बात की चिंता की कि छात्रों की सुरक्षा और उनका भविष्य, इसमें कोई समझौता नहीं होना चाहिए। मैं एनटीए को विशेष करके बधाई देना चाहता हूँ। ऐसे समय में नीट की परीक्षा कराना, छात्रों का मनोबल बढ़ाना और उनको परीक्षा केंद्रों तक को लेकर के आना और परीक्षा केंद्रों में उनकी सुरक्षा व्यवस्थित तरीके से कायम रखना और मनोबल के साथ उन छात्रों का परीक्षा देना, ये सामान्य बात नहीं है, ये बहुत महत्वपूर्ण बात है, असामान्य है।
A claim has been circulated in the media that the Home Ministry has ordered reopening of cinema halls across the country from the 1st of October with the imposition of strict regulations. PIB's fact-check team has found this claim to be fake. No decision has been taken by the Ministry of Home Affairs on reopening of cinema halls yet. And let's now take a look at some other global news coming in from all across the world. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus has said that the countries should join the World Health Organization's COVAX vaccine facility by Friday deadline to help ensure that immunizations are fairly and efficiently distributed. So far, 92 lower-income nations are seeking assistance via the COVAX facility, part of the WHO's ACT accelerator to boost development of vaccines, therapeutics and diagnostics to combat the pandemic. Wearing face masks and trying to keep a safe distance, more than 1 million pupils returned to schools across Portugal on Monday. Portugal ordered schools from kindergartens to universities, both public as well as private, to close mid-March when the lockdown was put in place to fight the spread of the coronavirus. Classes were replaced with online lessons and daily TV broadcasts of various subjects. Those, of course, were images of Lukashenko visiting Belarus. Now, as far as these images are concerned, wildfires have been blazing in Oregon as well as in the US, and these are the latest images that are coming in. The impact has been pretty catastrophic. This is a humanitarian crisis that is folding in western US. A deadly wildfire continues to spread in the state of Oregon. At least 33 people have been killed, dozens are still missing, and tens of thousands are under mandatory evacuation orders. Smoky air from the fires sent the air quality index to over 500, making it the worst in the world. And that's all we have for the moment in this edition of Newsnight. For all the latest, stay tuned to DD News and DD India.